indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The mission of the Pioneer School District is to educate each student to the highest levels of academic achievement and prepare students to succeed in life. The vision of the Pioneer School District is high levels of learning for all, every child, every day. Up first, we have requests to address the board, and I understand we do have one person that would wish to address. Are there any others? Okay.
Hi, I'm Sean Montano, part of your facilities committee, and I just kind of wanted to give you a quick little brief on some things that I know and to also let the public know and be more aware of the things that we've done that aren't coming from the district funds. They're coming from grants and things that Jeff and his team have been able to do and do those things for the district. One being the new district office. Got the permit to be able to be in there now. Got a few things to button up, some grading and whatnot. So that's nice. That's a huge deal for the district. We have Apollo coming into the small schools modernization, which is our security and lighting. That's all done on grants. So as a public member of the committee and seeing and talking with people in the community and then being kind of back with things as they are, to just remind them that we are doing a lot as much as possible to not only improve our school, but to do it with the conscientious of money being involved, as in the 2 new electric buses and chargers that went along with those. Those weren't paid for by taxpayer dollars. So just wanted to give you that little update and just to remind people that we do these things to help our community and keep money in their wallets.
Sean, I'd like to thank you for your participation on the facilities committee as a citizen representative. So I was the person on the committee that was representing the community.
3 years, I think now.
Yeah.
3 years.
So, that's awesome. Kept us honest.
You know, if there's anybody else that would like to join that committee, I think it's great to have the ability to, you know, throw your 2 cents in there. And, you know, Jeff's been really good about explaining a lot of things to us. Lloyd has been phenomenal with the facilities and the things that he does. And, you know, his biggest concern is it's got to be for the students. Students come first. Students always come first. And, you know, so that's why he reaches out to do the grants and as much as he possibly can do to make sure there's money in the budget for the kids.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next, do we have any changes and or additions to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to add Scott Lewis from Apollo Solutions, and let's put him under presentations. He's just going to give us an update. I don't think he's got a formal presentation, but just mainly updating us on the small schools modernization grant. Apollo's going to be doing the work, so we'll add Scott to that.
Excellent.
And his colleague.
Fabulous. Thank you. Do I have approval of the regular meeting agenda?
I move that we adopt the regular agenda as written.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. No opposed. That motion passes. Up next is approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes as well. We are into presentations with the district's highly capable program.
Good evening, Pioneer School Board. Good to see you guys. Good evening, Mr. Davis, community members, and co-workers, and everybody. I'm going to start by reading a small part of a letter from a student who unfortunately just left us to go to high school. So again, just reading a little bit of this regarding HiCap. So these are from 2 former HiCap students. You have supported me through my education at the school and helped me in times that are stressful. I am very grateful for your advisory and for the time I spent in it. You have no idea how much you truly mean to me. The studio has been a great experience that has repeatedly challenged me, and I'm excited to hear all about it next year from my brother. Thank you, Mrs. Roth, for everything you have done. Your favorite student, Jacob Summers. So what I'm presenting today is our plan for highly capable moving forward. Things are changing a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and do the overview that you have been given, as well as presenting from the website that I've created. So as part of the required communication with parents and community members, information about our highly capable program should be made available for anybody at any time to look at. So I have created this website that includes everything that ESD 113 and Washington State request districts to provide, including an overview of what our program is and what our ideals are, as well as a brief little brochure about our testing window, forms for nominating students and for appeals are all done in both Spanish and English and are available right in the website. This is one of the areas we are going to focus on increasing next year is HiCap highlights, which will highlight what we are doing in highly capable programs. And then again, all forms that are needed are also included on this website, appeals processes, as well as resources for parents in both Spanish and English for the parents of HiCap students who may want some more information or help with educating their child. And again, that website will be posted along with everything else on the Pioneer Schools website and will be updated by myself, Mr. Williams, Mr. Davis, and our new elementary HiCap coordinator when that person is named. So I just want to go over a quick overview of the main parts of the highly capable program that the state of Washington is invested in making sure that we are completing. The first one is parent communication. We've got a lot of new things added in general, but one of them is this website, making sure that website is up and running and available and updated with new information. Testing, we do universal screening for all second and fifth graders. We've been doing that for several years, long before it had become legislated to do so. We have changed, or I should say, added some additional pieces to the testing so that our net is as wide as possible, especially for populations of students that have been traditionally underrepresented in gifted and talented programs, specifically students with 504s, IEPs, and English language learners have been historically or misrepresented in highly capable programs across the nation for many generations. So part of the change that Pioneer has done is to look at all students meeting the top 10% of the COGAT screener. And that top 10% isn't across the board, it's the top 10% of each population. So the top 10% of students with IEPs will be looked at further. The top 10% of ELL students will be looked at for the top 10% of 504 students, because there are gifted and talented students within all of those areas. And again, historically, especially if behavior was ever an issue, they've been underrepresented in the highly capable programs. We also have added talent development to this so that students who either have inconclusive evidence or test scores that are very different, or maybe they're just a new student who don't have that much information, we have added talent development to our highly capable program. This allows for those students to be pulled into the highly capable program without the official designation for a year in the hopes and the idea that exposure to students who are highly capable may be just enough to push them up over that realm where we can then accurately identify them and pull them into the program. Eligibility, again, a lot of the historic benchmarks for eligibility have been eliminated because they missed significant portions of our student population. So we no longer have a cut score on any test as a criteria. We also no longer ask for or require teacher recommendations. Historically, many highly capable and gifted students are also behavioral issues if they are not adequately motivated educationally early on. In fact, a lot of kids with 504s and IEPs are actually gifted and talented, but their other characteristics overshadow sometimes that ability and they're missed. And since I started this position 7 years ago, we've caught quite a few kids who otherwise wouldn't have been designated, and thankfully so. So eligibility now is a mixture of various forms of data. Any evidence can be used to include a child in HiCap, but no evidence can exclude that. So behavior, grades, whether a teacher likes them, nothing to do with it whatsoever. Never should be part of that designation. So parents can submit evidence, students can submit evidence, teachers can submit evidence. We will look at test scores, we will look at all the data we have. But again, the point is to cast a wide net and recognize that not all talented and gifted students have those abilities recognizable. Sometimes those talents are hidden in the school systems. Our job is to bring them out. Another new addition to our highly program is to designate ELA math or dual enrollment. Again, highly capable students are not highly capable in everything. Maybe they're just really good at math, or maybe they're just really great musicians. That doesn't exclude them from highly capable services. So we do want to designate, however, students who have that high ability in math and science so that we can provide them advanced math classes, advanced science opportunities. And students who are advanced in ELA and history, we want to give them more writing opportunities, more public speaking opportunities, so that we are working in their talent area. Students with dual enrollment designation, of course, will get exposure to all of it. Also new in our program is students who have been previously designated as highly capable in another district. That designation will be honored when they enroll here. In previous years, they have had to test before being accepted, but we will accept any designation from any school district as legitimate and will immediately enroll them in the program. Program models and services. These are also some new things. We've got clustering with HiCap specific social emotional learning in both the elementary school and the middle school. This is especially important because highly capable students may have the ability to succeed academically, but often it is the social side of their lives that is hard to navigate. Clustering, especially in those early years, provides them that opportunity to be with other students who think like them, so they don't feel isolated and alone. They're going through the trials and tribulations of growing up. Common advisory with HiCap specific SDL middle school, that has been happening since I've taken over the position. New that we're going to be adding on, or I should say, making better, are advanced learning plans developed by high school or by school level HiCap coordinators with parent student input and shared with current teachers in September, dated again in January. Advanced learning plans will help our program focus on more rigor in the student work, not just more work. So the idea is that they are able to follow their interest while challenging and expanding their horizons, not necessarily just doing more of what a teacher is requesting them to do if that is not what interests the student. Student choice is really, really big in the HiCap program. Project-based elective choices, we've been amazing at that here at the elementary school, as well as the middle school and the elementary school have been great with that, with STEM classes, band, garden to table. We've got fish lure classes coming up next year, yearbook, chess. There are many options for all students, specifically high achieving students, to select electives that fit in their relative zone of happiness, and will hopefully challenge them in their endeavors that they choose to do in the future. A proposed addition to this, if funding and staffing allow, is to have an accelerated class in each core subject at the middle school level. Right now, we do have advanced math available in 7th and 8th grade, as well as advanced science through STEM. Program expenditures, money. So no high cap funds come from taxpayer dollars. Again, they do not come from the general budget. They are specifically and separately funded. So it is not relevant on how many students are in the program. It would be funded the same if there was 1 or 100. But our goal is to cast a wide net. And we've been doing a great job of that. So here are the expenditures we've had as of just this year and what we can anticipate moving forward. So the WACAG conference, which is for the elementary and middle school coordinators, as well as a rotating group of teachers, including admin, support staff. 9 people attended in Seattle last fall, 6 teachers and 3 admin support staff. The total for all of that, including hotel rooms, was $4,311. The stipends for both elementary school and middle school coordinators, a total is $4,676 per year. Again, that's divided into 2. We spent $3,278 on COGAT screeners, which is the required test to start to collect additional data. So that's where we get our local percentage rates from and other nationalized data, so that we can then, from that 9%, dig deeper into other data. So that is what we spent on that. We have some proposed expenditures that would benefit the entire school, because differentiation should be happening in all classrooms for all students. And again, even though we're casting a wide net, there are high cap students out there we've missed. So we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity. What I am looking into, and there's possible grant money for this as well, is Achieve 3000 literacy for ELA, history, and science, as well as Explore Learning, virtual labs, and gizmos for math and science. Again, purchasing these programs with high cap dollars would benefit all students in the school district, not just highly gifted. Also new, we want to do more with program evaluation and collecting more data on the efficacy of our program. Not just from students returning or writing letters or sending cards, which I've been doing for 7 years, but more from the high school teachers, more from their parents, more from them as they go through college. I would love to start collecting data on the next 10 years, if possible. So adding parent family surveys to be reviewed a minimum of once a year, as well as student surveys to be done at least twice a year, returning student reports, and exit surveys at the end of 5th and 8th grade to evaluate programs in both elementary and middle school. And final, so as I was researching and going through all of my literature, there's just a few things I pulled that I thought were poignant and worth mentioning. Gifted students often face isolation, anxiety, boredom, depression, and what can often be constant bullying from other kids for being different. Creating an environment where these students are safe and among other gifted peers is essential to their health and well-being. A staggering statistic for me was that 18 to 25% of students who drop out of high school have been identified as gifted after the fact. 18 to 25% of our brightest students don't even graduate high school because they've been completely isolated from the school system for so long that they're just waiting to get old enough to leave it. The government spends the most on low-performing schools and very little on high-achieving students. We need to invest in our future innovators, nurturing, challenging, inspiring them to achieve greatness. Gifted students are the key to America's future and to maintaining our place in the global economy. And finally, I'm going to leave you guys and thank you for your patience. I didn't mean to go on this long. I think I lost that pen. This is a letter that I received from a student who just graduated this year from Shelton High School. Dear Mrs. Roth, you are one of the first teachers I ever had after moving from being homeschooled to public school. And I want to thank you for being a great standard for the future teachers I would have. You pushed me to be part of the science fair, and I want to thank you for that because my experience of attending the state competition is one I will never forget. I want to thank you for the fact that you made a space in your advisory for me and all the other students who may be amazing academically, but are struggling socially. In that space, I was able to find some of my closest friends and truly enjoy what probably should have been some of my worst years of my high school career. Sincerely, Isabella, class of 2024. Thank you guys for your time.
Brenda, could you also talk about your grant from the Pickering Community Club?
Oh,
Yeah, we received a very generous grant from Pickering Club, and we were able to purchase the remaining, well, all the equipment we needed for Pioneer Broadcasting Studio, which is a place for students to 100% lead their own student news production. There's places for them in front of the camera, behind the camera, in graphic arts and music. And it is truly a student voiced newscast that we are working on getting better and better with. But just like them, I'm learning as every box is opened. And thank you to that generous donation. We now have everything we need to even do live streaming morning announcements.
that's awesome.
So please look forward to additional productions from Eagle Broadcasting. And we do have a YouTube channel if you would like to look at our previous episodes. Again, it is 100% student done. So it's definitely not perfect, but it is getting better and better.
Awesome. Thank you.
How many kids this year left from 8th grade to the high school that were in the HiCap program?
9.
9? And we had 92 kids that moved over, is that correct?
We ended up with 90.
So that's great.
We're promoted.
Will you then track those kids at the high school?
That's what I want to figure out how to do. That is what I want. I would love, and because of this committee, I actually have a chance of having that happen, having them come back after graduation
that
and
would be
again
great.
4 years later. That's what I'm going to be focusing on. The few days I'm going to continue to work this summer is how to get more quantitative data on the effective SOAR program. Because especially when we're putting dollars into this, we need to know that it's working and that it's benefiting the students, because that's what's.
Great, thank you.
That's awesome. Any additional questions, comments?
Yeah, you were talking about the expenditures. Those are from grant funds, or those come from the district?
No, that is, I grant funds purely for Harlan Cable, can't be used for anything else. Yeah. And then the state of Washington has been very generous with that funding. Recently, new legislature, has increased that. So, but it is a set amount. It doesn't go up or down depending on how many students you have. So we identify 1 or 100, it's still the same amount of money.
Okay.
But again, we're casting right next about the kids and getting them with each other so they realize their uniqueness is wonderful and not weird.
Awesome. I appreciate that you're expanding that net. I think that's really cool. And I like that you are addressing the social aspect of it as well, not just the educational piece. So I think that's brilliant. I appreciate you sharing all that.
Very much.
Any other
Great.
questions?
Yeah, you were talking about the top 10% in the different categories, and I think there were four total categories. Now, is that 10% out of each category, or is it 10% of all?
Each category. So for example,
That'll be
all
the-
students who are screened that have an IEP, the top 10% of those students, we will pull additional data from.
So that should increase our numbers.
Exactly. My goal is to become the HiCap district of Mason County. My goal is that parents who are looking on where to move, because I came from Nevada, was one of the first things I was looking at. Where can my child get a good education? Because he is highly capable. And I hope that as we grow this program and as we start collecting more quantitative data, especially long-term studies, that our enrollment's gonna go through the roof because everybody in Mason County is gonna want to bring their child here, and our waiting list is going to grow. That is my prediction, my hypothesis, and my plan.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next, we have the 2024-2025.
Remember we had.
Oh, I'm
Scott.
sorry, you're right. Yes. So we have Apollo.
Sorry, my printer was on the fritz this morning, so if you can share, that would be fantastic.
Thank you.
Very much.
Oh,
My goal is to be brief tonight, but also answer any questions you folks have. I get really excited and talk really fast, so if you need to slow me down, just call me for a timeout and I will. My name is Scott Lewis with Apollo Solutions Group. We've been working with Pioneer School District for going on 5, almost 6 years. Started this process back in late 2018 and finally had some great news to share. We should have been funded 2 years ago. I'm not mad about it, but now we're here and got funding to talk about, and also a solar project as well. So in this presentation, I've kind of come up with kind of a rehashing of how we got to this point. I do have information on Apollo if you're in this process, but also not to, go too fast to say this sounds too good to be true, what's in the details, all that kind of stuff. So in this, we've got a brief agenda. The 10,000 foot view about Apollo Solutions Group is that we are an energy service company that looks for ways to reduce energy consumption in existing buildings, which means we deal with energy retrofits. So windows, lighting, HVAC, roofing projects, et cetera, and also solar. So we don't do anything with new construction, or at least my group doesn't. But we come to the district with is ways to fund projects with grant dollars, try to steer clear of local taxpayer dollars, but anything federally or statewide that we can get, we'll go after. So on this third page after the agenda, we don't need to read every word on here unless you guys would like me to. But this page just tells a little bit more about Apollo Solutions Group. We are a division of the 5th largest mechanical contractor in the US, but we don't just give the work to Apollo as a whole. So our group is significantly less than the 2,700 employees that we employ nationwide. We have about 30 folks on our staff, engineering and construction under one roof. But what we do is identify projects, go take them out to bid, have Apollo bid against local contractors, anybody else. We want to keep the bids honest, but we don't just give the work to Apollo. So we prefer to work with local contractors just so you know the money's staying local, but then also that their pricing is reasonable and not gouging anybody. And over the last 3 grant rounds, we've gotten over $120 million worth of grants from our clients, mostly in the K-12 market. They're doing okay on the speed.
Yep.
Okay. One of the reasons why the district chose to work with Apollo is our 3 guarantees. We guarantee the cost, the energy savings, and the performance. If we say something's going to cost $100 and it comes in at 110, that's money out of Apollo's pocket. If it comes in under, that money stays in the district's pocket. So at the end of the project, and I'll get to the reasons why we have to get that money back or can't come out with our handout. But yeah, essentially it's everything's open book. So you see all of our bids, where the costs are. There's no hidden fees, nothing on the back end of it. On the energy saving side of things, we say we're going to save you $10 per year. We save you 11. Awesome, we've done our job. If we fall short of that, we have to write you a check for the difference. So we don't just do a project, leave it to you and say, good luck. We're going to come back a year later, measure and verify those results. Obviously, we'll be keeping tabs on it monthly just to make sure that everything's operating as intended. That's why we have Lloyd here. He's good at holding our feet to the fire. And then the performance of the system and equipment we install, again, it's all about making sure you guys have a good product. So if anything goes wrong, we're going to come back and fix it because you folks have a bad experience with us. You won't say nice things to your neighbors, and we can't continue to work. Any questions on that? Okay, our 5-step process, I'm gonna breeze through this one. We started, to identify projects back in 2019. We brought those to OSPI for potential funding. We got into an investment grade audit a few years after that, once the district received a planning grant. That planning grant paid for a portion of our costs to that date, but we've held on to all the overhead expenditures, site visits, different things like that. That's all a part of the grant task, but we didn't bill the district for anything beyond what you received that planning grant. What we're trying to do now is we have access to the remaining funds of that grant. We would hope to start construction. We'll get under a construction contract over the coming months and then build this project in the spring and summer of 2025. So we want to take a little bit more time on the start of things, get the design right, get everything procured on its way so that there's no issues with any sort of short-sightedness or shortfalls. And hopefully folks are okay with that versus, I know it's been a long wait for 5 years, but gonna take it a little bit more time. And then the stage 5 is the measurement verification. This next page is about the Department of Enterprise Services, which is what the district chose to work with. And how you procure our services. You can either go through an RFP process and select us with our pricing, or you can select the DES Energy Program and say, all right, Apollo, you're on the hook for developing these costs, and you have to wait until you actually have a grant to be able to go forward. The big thing about this process is that it's easiest on the district. You don't have to hire a project manager. And then also if you get audited on these funds after the fact, you just hand them DES's card and they take it from there. There's no additional resources necessary. All of their fees are rolled into our costs and it's all in our open book as well.
Nice.
Still doing good on the speed. I feel like I'm slowing down. I don't.
Done good.
Good. All right, so this is a project status in the small rural school modernization grant. Over at the elementary, the district is aligned to receive $4,851,000. And what we are trying to accomplish with this is an HVAC upgrade. Lloyd has changed out 14 of the air handling units that were installed in 1993. We got 30 left to go, so we'll change those out and then also tie them into a control system, which is the same system as here at the middle school. We'll change out every light that is not LED to LED, and then we'll also be looking at a security system similar to what's here at the middle school. And so with that batch of funds, anything that we can come in under budget on will be used for additional projects. I want to be sensitive about grant dollars because it is a greater taxpayer dollar in hand. It's not local taxpayer necessarily, but I like to look at it as if OSPI is going to be giving these funds to somebody, it might as well go to you. And then that way you don't have to run a bond or a levy to get these dollars. So that's kind of the status update on that. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
So are you going to provide a planning timetable that lays out, each of these projects, the timeline that you're going to be implementing the changes?
Absolutely. So,
I mean, that's one of the things I can say our district office, we fought to get that and just really never achieved that, and it strung out.
yep.
It just kept stringing out and out, and it would be nice to understand what that is so that our folks know that they're not going to walk into a big.
Yes, sir. That obviously, manpower is a huge issue. So we want to adjust for that to make sure that we have manpower through the summer. Once school starts and kids are back in, we don't want to be touching anything in the building. So our goal is to get under contract, finish the design, get the long lead item equipment ordered on its way. It needs to be stored by us or by the district for a period of a couple months. That's something we can talk about, but the goal is to start maybe on spring break and then slowly start changing things out. If the district requires us to work swing shift, we can come in at 3:30 every day and work until 2 a.m. and do it that way. Or we can just wait until the summer construction period, whatever works
So
best.
you're going to have a project engineer
Yep.
oversight,
Yes,
be
sir.
able to give us updates
Yeah.
where they're at.
Construction manager and site superintendent are a part of this project. Our site superintendent will be on site anytime when there's a subcontractor on site. And so they'll be the person to talk to on a daily basis about that. We'll share 6-week look ahead schedules and anything that we can to, prepare the staff for working in their rooms.
So you mentioned long lead material. Has there been problems with receiving the required material?
It's actually gotten far better since COVID, but that was a huge shakeup. Chillers were at one point 75 weeks out, but fortunately for this project, we don't anticipate any super long lead items that would cost.
So we don't need to go for anything right now.
No, sir. It's just where if we had to go for something right now to get it in line for this part of the season next year, we would have pushed to get under contract faster and maybe sped up that process. But I think, by taking our time a little bit right now, maybe taking another month to get because everything going in front of TES has to be approved. We have to rethink everything out, down to the T, because if we miss something, you can't come back to the district with our hand out. So we're trying to take a little bit more time. Does that help?
Yes.
So that's does anybody have any questions on the modernization?
Well, pre-construction meeting, obviously you're gonna have all the players at the table at least one time
Yes.
prior to startup. And so, with Sean, he had mentioned our facilities committee. That's probably the go-to here. The school or facilities committee, Lloyd mainly,
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that'll be good for a pre-con meeting.
Absolutely, yeah. We want to incorporate as many players as we can to update, because obviously, we would love the public to know what's going on too. This is a big project. I mean, it's going to take the elementary school for another 30 to 40 years before you have to make any, well, I'm not going to say anything beyond that, but we're doing a lot. So it'll be great.
One of the nice things about this grant that OSPI and the legislature helped us with is originally was 4.25 million from 18. And we, as you see, awarded little over 4.8 to cover those inflationary costs. It would have been really difficult to do the scope of this project with that original 4.25. So just wanted to
I have a question.
shout out to
I
them.
see on the last page that we have an upfront 30% match that will be reimbursed. How will that 30% match fit with our budget situation?
You want to address that?
So that you're talking about the sodium project, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So do we want to jump to that one real quick?
That's a different project.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a different project.
okay. This question will be the same, but
So then this last page before the last page, is the solar plus battery backup. Last summer, we applied for a grant and we just barely missed it. We were 1 point away from actually receiving the grant and moving forward. Chris Bishop, gave us a call and said, hey, we actually did receive it this year. So we are ready to go. However, this pricing of the application budget of 1,696,374, is a year old. So we have to go back and reprice that. What what Department of Commerce has allowed us to do is go back and reprice things to possibly reduce the scope or to make it more budgetarily friendly for the district. So the upfront 30% match that was required, they're funding 70% of it. We're coming up with the remainder of 508,912. What that looks like though is as soon as the project is closed out, we get it operational, then 45 days later, we're able to apply for a federal tax incentive. Even if the district doesn't pay taxes, we still have access to this incentive. So that will be reimbursed to the district. What some people have done is gone through Craft 3, which is a nonprofit lending firm that basically their fee is 1% of the project price, and they have offered to upfront those costs. And then it's a monthly payment until you get reimbursed, and then their loan goes away. So we can engage with them and start talking about what that looks like from a financial perspective, but the goal is to have enough time and effort into this that where we get the array installed on the roof. You see the picture right here. Get the battery set up. The battery is the longest lead item on this project, and then once it's operational, you guys are getting energy savings from the array. Yeah, battery backup for the cooler, freezer, oven, and cooktop, and then 45 days after that, we aim to get you your incentive.
So what if the roofing material needs to be replaced or upgraded? Because, I mean, it's been on there for a while. I think we replaced some of the roofing, but you don't want to put solar array on the whole roof, right?
Correct. And just so you know, it doesn't actually sit directly on the roof. It's a ballasted system. So we have supports on the hedges, and then it kind of sits across. Obviously, I think when we applied for this last year, Lloyd wasn't super concerned about the roof at that time. We can do a whole other analysis to see if it needs to come off. I don't want to sign you guys up for a brand new roof at that point, but if we need to move it to the ground, I mean, we have a little bit of area back there on the southeast side of the southwest side of the school. And if it connects to the battery right outside the kitchen, would that be okay? It's up to you guys, but
The thing that we'll have to take a look at as we get closer is maybe get a roofing contractor out and see what's the life of this roof on this building. And then once we learn that, then maybe get back and say, okay, they're suggesting it'll go 15 more years. It's not, I mean, even when the solar panels are installed on the roof, if we had to have a new roof 15 years down the road, those roofing companies take those brackets off, move them, do it anyway. I mean, they can do that. So I think the first thing is we have to take a look at the life left on this roof.
so there's a lot more homework that needs to be done on this because we were just notified in the last few weeks. So over the coming months, we'll be coming back with the energy services proposal for the small rural school grant. We'll also have an update on the solar once we get our subcontractor down here to look at it again. Get a roofing contractor, take a look at the life, and then we'll come back to you with some ideas. If that works.
I just had a quick question. So you said that you apply for a tax, I don't remember the word you used. I apologize. Incentive. Yeah. So, but does that mean that it's not guaranteed?
No, I'm sorry, I should have, my phrasing is bad on that. You will get it. So this is part of the Biden administration's goal to invest in renewables. And I'm surprised that we don't have lower prices on solar at this point in time because we've been trying to do this for years, but so yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Before the solar project, you were talking about the lighting and upgrading to LED and upgrading our HVAC. All of those things, do you have an idea of what the energy, so it won't cost our district money at this time, right? But do you have an idea of what the annual energy savings would be with those upgrades?
Yeah, and I apologize, I don't have those numbers right now. What the engineers on our team are working on is getting those accurate calculations. So right now, we've kind of for years projected what those savings would be. But our documentation to the Department of Enterprise Services has to be spot on. And so if I can just wait maybe until we submit our proposal, I'll give you those final details right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I think I went way over on my time.
Totally fine.
One other thing that we owe the district is on match rate level 2 assessment. The district had applied for a grant. So based on our documentation, we'll submit that to OSBI, and then the district will be getting funding back. I want to say it was 50 cents a square foot or something similar to that. So that's additional dollars we could spend for whatever, not with Apollo. So
Nice. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Okay, now we're up to the 2024-2025 budget hearing.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk, first of all, I want to make a comment. Thank you guys. Brandon mentioned that HICAP is not tax dollars. So HICAP is a state funded program, which state tax dollars are used. But the point that she was trying to make is that it's not local levy dollars. It's not the levy that our voters are approving everything. So I just wanted to mention that. Going over our 2024-2025 budget, we talked about the majority of, actually all of the items in this presentation last Tuesday. There's been a couple of real minor changes. I'm going to point those out as we go. There's been really one minor change that you guys will see. But with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. First, we have our enrollment. Our projected enrollment next year, we're projecting 714. The current year, we ended at 737, and this is just a five-year running history. So you can see the impact that COVID really had on us. A lot of kids were out of school, and made that way back in 2022, 2023. Next here, we have our 5-year staffing history. Our trends, you can see, with COVID, I don't know if we laid people off, I don't know the correct terminology there, but we reduced staff. And then our staff numbers climbed again in 2022, 2023. 2024, we're projecting 99, and this is FTEs. Last week you guys asked me to get some figures on like departmental numbers. So I went through and did that. The 62 certs, certificated teachers, or certificated staff members, that's the red bar. 56 of those are teachers. 2 of them are counselors, and then there's 4 certificated admin included in there. And then the 37 FTEs for classified, that's the orange bar, the middle bar. And that's actually, it's made up, there's more staff members than 37. This is full-time employees. So a regular classified staff member isn't a full, if they're working a 6-hour schedule, they're not a 1.0 full FTE. So that's why the numbers here aren't going to quite match up. But the classified staff is made up of 4 custodians, 4 food service staff, 9 bus drivers, and that includes our sped bus drivers. We have 4 classified admin, 5 secretaries, and then 27 paraeducators. Next bullet, general fund, so our beginning fund balance, projecting a $1 million beginning fund balance, revenues of $15,202,694, expenditures of $15,215,000. And then that would leave our ending fund balance of $986,734. That projected ending fund balance will make up 6.48% of our budgeted expenditures. One of the big difference I wanted to point out, so the revenue figure was $15,199,000 last week. There was $3,000 rate revenues that I had in the budget. And this is based on after DST performed a review with they suggested I had it. So that improved our ending fund balance by $3,000 there. The budgeted revenues are made up of local taxes at just over 2.8 million, local non-tax support, which is local grants like the Kiwanis Grant, Pickering Community Club, entities like that, donating or providing support is $87,500. Our state general purpose dollars are $7,716,000. State special purpose is $3,223,000. Federal general purpose is $12,000, and that's federal forest tax revenues. And then the federal special purpose is $1,363,000, and that's programs like Title I and Title II. Food services is a big portion of that. And I'm not going to talk through this too, Dan. I know we're going to talk about it, but please raise your hand or stop me if you have any questions. Next, budgeted expenditures program. Regular instruction, that's just basic ed, $7,603,000. Federal special purpose, that's where the ESSER dollars came through, but next year is 0. Special education instruction, $2,329,000. Vocational education instruction, and this could change if we're approved for CTE. We would need to come back and do a budgeting section and add some revenues and expenditures in there for CTE. But vocational education instruction at the moment is 0. Skill center instruction, that's only for high school districts, 0. Compensatory education instruction, that's $1,278,000. Other instructional programs is $21,810. Community services, $3,000, and then support services is $3,979,000.
Can you remind me what the community services piece was?
Yeah, so the $3,000 there is there's money set aside in there for the garden. That's a portion of it, and then the other portion is the Pioneer Community Feeding Kids. we created that budget code this last year. I think there's $1,000 of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Budget expenditures by activities, so teaching activities is $9,015,000. Teaching support is $1,530,000. Other support activities is $2,738,000. Building admin is $410,000, and the district administration is $1,433,000. Objects, certificated salaries make up to $6,236,000. Classified salaries make up $2,208,000. Employee benefits make up $3,210,000. All in all, that's about 75% of our budget there. And then we have supplies, instructional resources, and non-capitalized materials, $792. Purchase services, $2,749,000, and there's a lot of, there's a few contracted employees in there, such as a psychologist, a physical therapist, an SLP, and maybe one more, school nurse. Those costs are included in the purchase services category there. Travel with the $400, and the capital outlay is $15,000. This next slide this is just so a couple of years ago, legislature started requiring districts to disclose their MSOX costs. This is where I look at what our funding for MSOX are, materials, supplies, and other costs, non-staff costs, basically non-salary and benefit costs. But our MSOX revenue for the year is $1,094,000. Our projected MSOX expenditures is $2,100,000. This kind of goes to show part of the problem in the state funding in that equation. And the majority of our costs, our MSOX costs are non-high. That's just over $600,000. And then we have utilities costs. And the amount of funding that legislature provides to districts across the board is not enough to pay for those four services. So the state wanted to start seeing some visuals. Here's our visual. We are in the red on our MSOX by over $1 million.
Chris, can you remind me again about Program 1 and Program 97?
Yes, so Program 01, and that's basic education. So that's just the normal classes, not your title programs or anything like that. That's basic ed. It's your 6th grade teachers, your 7th grade teachers, your class educators, stuff like that. Well, sorry, I'm talking about staff costs, but it's costs associated with just the 6th grade classroom, Ms. Ross' classroom, not the high cap portion. With 3rd grade classes, that's associated with the in-student or in-person learning. Program 97, that's support services.
Is support services?
Support services. So that's where our utilities payment comes from. That's where our insurance costs, where those come from, things like that.
Can you remind me again, what our non-high fees were and what they just increased to, right? Did they just almost double?
So for the year, we've paid just under $600,000 for this current year. Last year's budget for the current year, we only budgeted $400,000. So this year we're budgeting and it's calculated out to per student estimate. I want to say that the figure is 630 in this current, in our 2024-2025 budget.
And we hope it stays that way.
Or goes down.
Well, what I don't understand is how we don't find out what the fee per student is until later in the year.
Yeah.
I would think that Shelton, in doing their revenue projections, would have to know that at the time they do their budget.
Yes and no, but I personally would never rely on somebody else's projection to project my own. The reason for it is they have to see how many students are actually enrolled, and then they build on the amount of students actually enrolled. They can't take the number of our students that live in our district. Then they might drop out. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, that's the way they're doing it.
Do you by any chance know how they come up with, their amount that they charge us for?
So-
Like,
It's based on local tax levy rate and your per student figure. I believe it's the lower of the serving districts. So let's just use Shelton School District, for example. Shelton School District's local levy rate per student is $1,900. I'm using round figures. Our local levy rate per student is $2,100. So we pay $1,900 per student that is enrolled there, per FTE that is enrolled there, and then we get billed. December is a true up of the previous year, or is the final billing of the previous year, and then the May payment, that's the one where really I made a mistake in my budget last year, why we were so far under. That's where we find out the current year, and without reaching out and saying, hey, how many of our students are enrolled earlier in the year, it's hard to project that. Did that answer your question?
yes. Part of that, which just, it kind of bothers me that we lose our funding per student, that they get our funding per student and then also charge us to have our students go there. So they get like double funded when we send our students there and we're losing.
Yep.
It really,
That's the whole basis behind the land purchase and trying to get a bond onto the ballot to build a high school. Okay. Moving on, ASB funds next. We have I broke these revenues down by I guess club category. But general student body, we have revenues of $4,950, athletics of $2,000, clubs of $2,250, and the clubs is yearbook and then the student store. They opened that up the second half of this year quite a bit. And then expenditures, general student body would be $24,712, athletics $6,250, clubs $1,800, and private monies $13,430. The reason the expenditures are so much higher than the revenues is because we've been carrying an ASB fund balance. A good portion of that is for the elementary school, which you guys are aware of last week. We haven't been able to find the constitution, so we haven't been spending the money. So pass that constitution, that frees up another, I want to say it's $12,000 to $14,000 for the elementary school that they can use on the ASB activities. So that's a big plus for them. The other thing I wanted to mention is the private monies. That is things like the Leukemia Society, Pennies for Patients, and the big chunk of funds that are sitting there now are at-risk funds. So when we have at-risk students, they can apply for ASD money, or ASD assistance basically, and that can go through the ASD, they'll go through and vote on. We haven't done this, but they can go through and vote on how much to, I guess, give to those families that apply. In summary, our beginning fund balance is $45,000. Revenues for the ASB is $9,200. Expenditures would be $46,192, and then the ending fund balance would be $8,400. Debt service fund, there's not very much activity here at all. Revenues, we have our bonds that we passed in 2014 and have been collecting on. I think it's 20-year bonds, so the 2034, 2035, somewhere around there will be the end of this one. We did bring up the possibility of a refunding bond because of outstanding or because of rates and the health of our debt service fund. So that more information will come in the future on that. But local property taxes, 1,620,000. Local support bond tax, which is just interest revenues, is about 30,000. Our bond payment next year is 630,000. The interest payment will be 940,000, and that's split up into two pieces. Half the interest is paid in May, half of it is paid in December. And then $5,000 for insurance fees. The beginning fund balance for the debt service fund is 874, with the revenues of 1,650,000, expenditures of 1,575,000. That'll bring our ending fund balance to 948,000. The projects fund, which Scott talked about a little bit, this will be the activity. The beginning fund balance there is 32,000. Revenues and other financing sources, 10,140,000. Expenditures, 10,138,000. With an ending fund balance of 33,979. The reason we budget all of the revenues, all of the expenditures, even though the last project on the small district modernization grant, the 2021-22 application, that one won't go through. It won't happen for another year or two. But in order to prevent losing that information, first of all, we include that in the budget and any project will happen next year. But it gives us capacity for those grants. So the small schools modernization grant that Scott talked about, the lighting, elementary school, and security HVAC, that's in there budgeted at 4.1 million. Solar plus storage grant.
That should be.
Is budgeted at 120, 187. And then we have the last small district modernization grant, which I believe I talked about what was included in that application last week. Additional funds for classroom space, construction or remodel of the elementary gym / cafeteria to give a dedicated space for lunch and PE. And then in addition to the middle school with the STEM, that one came in at 4,851,000. And that's it. That's all the activity that's budgeted out of capital projects.
Chris, this does not include the retention money from this building. We have not received that will go into capital projects.
Last is the transportation vehicle fund. Our beginning fund balance is 265,000. Revenues will be 236,000. Expenditures 400,000. Ending fund balance there is 102,209. The only real activity that we're projecting in the transportation vehicle fund is the depreciation revenues from the state. So buses, when we buy a bus, they go on a 13-year depreciation schedule. We're paid out every year. And that's the state helping to keep our fleet new and running and reliable. The expenditure there is capacity. If we need to purchase a bus, we can. If we need to purchase a couple of different short buses for the sped department, we can. But we don't need to with where we're at right now and what vehicles we have. That's all I have. Pretty, it was quick, but short to the point. Any questions?
Thank you for kind of revamping and for your time last week where we got to really dig into all of this. I appreciate that time.
It's good to read.
Yeah.
Thank you for the contrast.
Did you like the colors? Perfect. All right, thank you.
Any questions? Okay. So that takes us right into business operations then.
And it's a rush to get the budget ready and get that presentation ready. I space on the charts, the charts and the summary for this, so I'm just gonna read off this budget. You guys have a copy of this?
No,
I need to send this out.
we just have the big one.
Okay. So I'm gonna read through it and then we'll send out copies of this, works. Sit down and to you guys. So, email it to Lynn and have her disperse. But general fund, well, first, our average month of the year, because it's now finalized, we average 736.83 FTEs. So in contrast with the budgeting set of 14, that's 22 difference. That's about half the difference we're projecting between our 8th grade class that just promoted and our kindergarten class next year. For the general fund, we have revenues in May of $1,076,000, expenditures of $2,069,000. There was a lot of big expenditures. Those included the second half of the non-high payment, which is about $300,000. We paid for the school resource officer contract, which was $70,000. The elementary school roof had repair, that was $50,000, and then the free dock. Our records management project to digitalizing project was about $200,000 for the month. Ending fund balance is $842,000. For the capital projects fund, we had $127,000 revenues, $66,000 of expenditures. The ending fund balance there is $151,000. The debt service fund, I mentioned we made our interest payment, but we had $143,000 of revenues, $474,000 of expenditures. That's that interest. Ending fund balance is $784,000.
Chris, do you have, this one? Just because it's hard for me to follow along in here.
That
That goes with the.
Oh, that's the other one. Okay. Got it.
It's part of
With the, oh yeah, okay. Never mind, sorry.
ASB fund, revenues of $751, expenditures $2,052. I believe this was a portion of their yearbook invoice was paid, which is why the expenditures there seem so high. Ending fund balance $45,676. And then the transportation vehicle fund, we had $3,042 revenues, no expenditures. The ending fund balance is $138,000. Like I said, I'll send you guys copies of this report as soon as I sit down. So you have the numbers in front of you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Maybe once we see it, we'll reach out if we do. Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
Yeah, you have a paper copy in front of you. Just want to hit a couple highlights. As mentioned, we are almost done transitioning into the new building. We've got a few more cabinets and desks to move in, but hopefully you'll get an opportunity tonight. We walk over and see the progress that's been made. I think if I recollect correctly, 2 of you have not been in it at all, and 3 of you have been in it in different phases. So we'll take a look at that tonight. Good news is that we have the Washington State Extension Office on our weather station. They should be working on that this week. That is 32 feet by 32 feet is the foundational piece. So it's going to be pretty substantial weather station that they will be installing. I do want to recognize Dan Deacon and Melissa Kerrigan for the work on getting volunteers. They've got a lot of volunteers that are working in the garden this summer to keep it watered, pull weeds, and to help with harvesting. So I appreciate the work they're doing. talked a little bit about the budget documents, kind of from our conversation last week. So, that's in there. Wanted to update you on our hiring, process. Nothing has changed. We still will be looking at August to fill those vacant teaching positions. And as mentioned before, we're going to hold off on the one kindergarten position until we look at what enrollment looks like. I do want to publicly shout out to Lloyd and all the work he's done in this district office project. He's been here since it started. I think he might be the only one that's still here after the thing started in February of 2021 and has followed it through. He has represented the district very well. He has stayed on top of it. He has held the company accountable for a lot of the things that needed to be fixed and sometimes dragging their feet. Lloyd would talk to them about the amount of money that we're spending on it, that the grant is, and please do it right. So again, Lloyd's done just a fantastic job on this. So if you get a chance, again, tell him thank you. We got occupancy Friday, and so yeah, we've been moving in this week.
Nice.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do want to say I think it's really cool that that we've got people who are working the garden over the summer, but also that it says in here that as things are ripe and ready to go, they don't just sit there. They're going to be, let the community know we have them available or donate them to the food bank, which I think is fantastic. So I just want to say thank you for that. So I think that's really cool. Any questions or anything for Jeff?
Who's the contact person on that for volunteering during the summer?
Dan Deacon.
Okay.
Or you can contact me and I'll get a hold of Dan because Dan's not, obviously he's not here all the time.
Okay. Up next, we have discussion and action items. The first is the approval of the highly capable program. Do we have any?
I move that we approve the highly capable program as described this evening.
All right. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the approval of the highly capable program, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Up next, we have approval of the Pioneer Elementary ASB Constitution, which we were able to also look at a couple weeks ago. Are there any questions pertaining to that at this time? No questions or discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the Pioneer Elementary ASB Constitution?
I move to approve the elementary ASB constitution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor, or it's been moved and seconded, sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, the motion passes. Up next is approval of resolution 06-2024, lower ending fund balance for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. This is what our meeting was about last week as well. Do we have any questions or discussion?
I have some discussion. I know we had a meeting on it last week.
Yes, totally fine.
Things can change. I was having I like that 9, even 10% reserve. In our budget, we establish our estimated costs and our estimated revenues to the best of our ability. I understand that. And that's probably one of Jeff's biggest jobs here is to try to make a budget, right? I mean, that's the goal, is that we don't sacrifice the learning of the kids to make budget, but we make every attempt to meet the bottom line, right? And so in having an excess amount of money at the end of the year, on top of having our 5%, I'm almost leaning to say, hey, let's go into this with, this is what we budgeted to operate for the year, and we're gonna do that. That's our goal. That we don't need a cushion. Plus, we have 9% if we stick with the 9%. I think we were just in the red. Just barely in the red at 9%. If I remember.
No.
No,
Or
we
was
had
that
to
a
cut like
We're $300,000.
7,
was
we
a
were just a
7%.
hair into the
Yeah,
green,
and
yeah.
that number changed. So the updated number at 7% is 78,000.
Okay, it was just like three or
It
four.
was 2,100 last week to the
Okay.
good. Now we would have to cut an additional 78,000 at 7%.
Oh, that's
Then
not in the good.
And then 9%, we would be cutting an additional 382,000. This 5% keeps us at 760,000 as a policy. And right now that we would not need to cut anybody. And we can use the word cushion, but that money is not budgeted to spend.
Right.
It's there, and hopefully a year from now, we will be adding that to the ending fund balance. That's obviously the goal to get there. But the other two numbers have us making additional cuts.
It just.
I get it.
I thought we were closer than that, but
Well, yeah, we were.
yeah, we were.
Yes.
Well, and we didn't have the final payroll, which last month, so our payroll for this Friday came out a little bit higher because we had some time cards and we had exact numbers on substitute costs. So we will have one more adjustment in payroll in July that'll pick up any costs associated with the last 2 weeks of school in June. Will carry over into July for the payroll, but it'll be significantly lower.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve lowering the ending fund balance for the 2024-2025 fiscal year?
I move to approve lowering the fund balance to 5% for 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Up next is approval of resolution 07-2024 for the signature authority. We have that. Do we have any questions or discussion regarding the signature authority?
I move that we accept resolution 07-2024 signature authority as written.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passes as well. Up next, we have approval of resolution 08-2024 for the interfund transfer. And this is, well, can you kind of go into a little bit about what that required exactly? $100,000.
Chris, why don't you explain the 100,000 from transferring it from general fund to capital projects?
So this is for the district office project. Per instruction, with the ESSER grant, we need to claim indirect costs. Per ESD's direction, they said to claim all of the indirects that you can on this grant. The indirects go directly into the general fund, whereas the direct expenditures go directly into the capital projects. So what this is doing is basically taking some of those dollars that were been claimed as indirects and moving those to the capital projects fund. And this will get us through the end of the project. With our invoices that we have outstanding and, well, with our invoices that are to be paid at on the 28th. We have some checks printed for those, and then there's a couple that are outstanding invoices that haven't been entered yet, but this will get us through.
And this is going to be reimbursed through the ESSER, that's right.
This was, the reimbursements have been coming into the general fund for the indirects already, so they've already came in. And this transfer is factored into the budget that I just presented earlier. So with that, if this isn't approved, then the other budget would be $100,000 over, but we can't make our payments capital projects.
So, and so that's a nice round number, 100,000.
Yeah.
What was the total
What was the total?
of funds that were reimbursement funds? You're gonna take 100,000 of it and move it to capital projects. What was the total number?
I have to look.
I mean, I just wondered how you come up with that, with the 100,000. That's just a need basis.
Yes, yeah, it's the need basis. I don't want to pull any more from the general fund than we have
Okay, but there was more than that.
in indirects, yes.
Okay.
There will be some, I guess retainage is the best word from that building, like we're talking about here, but we've waited a few years to get this retainage. Once everything's finalized in that building, there will be some retainage, but it comes back into the
You
capital.
just gotta remember to put in for it, right?
Oh, yeah. Got-
Was this an anticipated, transfer?
Yeah, I'd say it's anticipated with the guidance from ESD on everything. There's nothing we can do in this profession without having indirects, like every facet of where our funding comes from, like OSPI. We get grants, they're gonna withhold usually around 8% for their costs, for their indirects. ESD, they're gonna withhold some of that funding because there's some costs at their end. But then we get that, in some cases, back to us, but never all of it. And in this case, we have to estimate to cover.
And I think that's important. Most programs, most state funded programs will allow you to claim indirect costs. Because this is that program 97, those MSOCs, that $1 million of MSOCs that aren't funded. This is the indirect costs go to help make up that deficit.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so do I have a motion to approve resolution 08-2024 for the interfund transfer?
I'll move to approve resolution number 08-2024 for transfer funds.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Up next is approval of resolution 09-2024 for the adoption of the 2024-2025 budget and four-year enrollment projections.
I move that we we approve the resolution 09-2024, the adoption of the 24-25 budget and the four-year enrollment projection.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That has been moved and seconded and motion passes. That takes us through our action and discussion items and into any new business.
I just have one comment. I don't know that it's business, but,
Board chair.
pardon?
We can move to board chair if nobody has. business.
I just wanted to make, for our board, to acknowledge the passing of Mike Felton, who was a 25-year board member, maybe I think the longest, you were going to check, right? The longest serving school board
Wow.
board member for Pioneer School District, and who did many, many things for the benefit of school, including taking lead in trying to get the new building put together and passing our levy, and our condolences to you, Sean, as well. Anyway, I hope that we can, I hope we'll be able to put a plaque up someplace and honor him for this years of service to the school district.
I also want to recognize Mike for his service to our country. He's a Vietnam veteran, 100% disabled. He did wonders for our country.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. It's important. Any other board share items? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
And a second? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Gather your stuff. We'll get Take a jaunt over there.
Oh, we need to sign